Welcome to the end of day review for Tuesday, the 21st of November 2023. Starting off with a recap of the calendar for today, as you can see, there was a bunch of CAD news. There was some medium impact GBP and Euro news. However, that doesn't necessarily impact my trading because it's not red folder news. There is high impact USD news at 9 p.m. However, this is 3 hours after my trading session and thus there's no bearing on my trading. In addition to this, the reason why I'm concluding that there's no impacts on my trading is because my primary pair is back in action and thus I'm purely focused on GBPUSD. Recapping and doing an overview of the live trading session, as you can see from a daily perspective, today was the third bullish day, which I guess for tomorrow will mean that we can only trade shorts, which probably isn't going to align to my trading plan for the day, which is fine. We can consider our secondary pairs. From a 4H perspective, what we can see is that 4H ERL continuation momentum scenario is at play, and we're targeting the high highs as they develop, provided that the 5-minute develops appropriate internal range liquidity. We also developed this 4H ERL continuation OB, however that hasn't been interacted with yet. I wasn't too convinced about using this particular POI because it's more so still part of the range, and thus I consider the entire range to be valid going forward. Looking at the 5-minute, what you will see is when the session opened Frankfurt, we were looking for IRL to develop. I was then looking for a change of character to then target this high. Unfortunately, price took out the Asia range high rather than the low, and as a result, it essentially took out my target. From then on, we essentially skipped forward to New York. During New York, a similar situation, as you can see. In London, there was no real IRL that developed. We had the chalk and we had the target taken out, thus waiting for more IRL to develop, but at this point it's late in the day and the end of the trading session. So that brings me to the end of day review, because really it was rather uneventful. What you'll notice with my trading plan is that in times of high market trend, my trade activity slows down quite substantially, and this is purely for the fact of there being unknown targets. Whereas in a pro-trend scenario with ERL to target, you've got multiple targets intraday, such as substructure targets, and then ultimately the ERL. However, in this situation, it's rather skeptical and unknown as to at what point will price reverse. Therefore, because the target is unknown, I rely heavily on IRL being developed and then target the IRL. Whilst I don't need 4H backing to trade this idea, I do need it to form in the way my trade plan sets out in order to ensure that I consistently approach these scenarios. If it doesn't set up, although it sucks to have low trade activity weeks, this is simply part of trading, and I've thoroughly investigated alternatives and none of them quite worked out very nicely. Thus it's a matter of patience and sitting on your hands, and that's precisely what I've done for today. I didn't force anything. I did consider trading AUDUSD, but it was a similar scenario in the New York session where the last point of IRL was taken out and then the target, and there was just no opportunity to get in. The problem with this situation is because there wasn't time for new IRL to develop, I wasn't able to trade because I needed one side of the London session to be liquidated. The other alternative that may have yielded me an entry would have been this situation where I used this lower high as the last IRL point. However, it's unclear and somewhat skeptical, and I wasn't too keen about it, which then would have brought me into, I guess, I'll illustrate how I could have entered it. So because we have a worm, I can justify that demand is in control effectively, and then under the New York continuation premise, I would require liquidity in the leg. As you can see, there's another gap here, but because there's a worm, I can extend the range and justify the chain right here. And then as you can see, there is liquidity in the leg over here, and this would validate an entry something like this. I'll probably go with a stop loss around here. So if you go there, 6, 7, 8, maybe a 9 pip stop loss just to be safe. Okay, wait, let's rather just look at this accurately. So if we go with this, you've got your general markup right there, and this is a reactionary flip, which tends to be liquidity. However, we've got liquidity in the leg, and which essentially means we need to cover this, so about a 9 pip stop loss and a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is not possible with this being the target, so the next best option would be to maybe cover the reactionary flip, if that is a stop loss, and maybe have a 4 pip stop loss with that being the target, and you can potentially get a 1 to 5. That was an option depending on how you interpreted your last IRL point. I was far more confident with this being my last IRL point. Okay, so this essentially brings me to the end of day review for today. I'll quickly do the TA markups for GBPUSD, and that will be the end of it. However, as usual, I won't be talking about it because my live analysis pretty much covered it, unless I miss something in my live trading analysis that I pick up during during the TA review or TA markup, then I'll mention it towards the end. Else, we'll chat tomorrow. We'll chat again tomorrow